What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Tactical Response Talks. We are going to hang out with Tom today. Multi alumni, good dude.
Yes, glad to be here and to hear I at least get that as a good dude.
Yeah. Multi alumni,
Yeah.
adequate person.
Okay. Okay. That'll work. That's good.
So yeah, let's just kick this thing off. Let the people know a little bit about what was, as cheesy as it sounds, your journey. Like, did you grow up with guns? I know you were in the military. Was that always a plan? How'd you get to where you were at?
Okay, so I did to an extent grow up with guns. My stepdad started teaching us about guns. When was I? Probably fifth, sixth grade, like right around there, and just your standard, typical stuff you get to see. You know, like all right, let's go out. We lived in Arizona at the time. Like all right, we go out, we shoot in the whatever the Ruger 1022s we had, and so just kind of that very young, and then went kind of a different route in high school. I played sports. I was involved in that stuff. So kind of the shooting dropped off.
Right.
And then at the beginning of my senior year, I joined the Army. I finish high school, I graduate, and then I go to the Army. And then I spend almost 25 years in the Army.
Long time.
Yeah, doing gun stuff among other things. And actually it was the first civilian class I took, because so in the Army I was retired as a sergeant first class. So I was a non-commissioned officer, which we're the ones that instruct and teach and do all that. So I was a drill sergeant for 3 years.
Okay.
So taught amongst other things basic rifle marksmanship. Carried one of those Ruger, or the not Rugers. We can edit that out, right?
Fix it in post, Shelton.
Yeah, fix that. The Berettas. Horrible. Anyway, so I'd carried one of those on and off, and so a fairly extensive, or teaching and using the systems. And then the very first civilian class I took, I was, I think, just approaching or just over 20 years in the Army.
Wow.
And it was actually at Front Sight in Nevada, and they no longer exist. But it was their 4-day pistol class that I took, and that class just opened my eyes about holy smokes.
Really?
I don't know a whole bunch of stuff.
Wow.
And what drove that was, back up a little bit, I came back from Iraqi freedom deployment, and I'd got my CCW. In Nevada, in an 8-hour block of instruction. You're
right.
4-6 hours in the classroom. You go out on the range, guns on the table, boom. All right, you can load the thing and you can hit the target. I'm like, all right, yay. And so, I started processing this, and I'm like, okay, well, now I can carry it concealed. I'm like, where does it go? Am I like, my pocket? Am I like, where, I'm like, thinking,
right.
I'm processing this information. And I was stationed at Fort Irwin in California at the time, and do not go into gun shops in California.
All right.
So I go in, I'm like, hey man, I'm looking to carry this thing concealed, and I'm asking the questions, and I'm thinking, now I know it's a bad idea, but I'm like, all right, small of the back, or all the weird stuff that you think about. And so they're just looking at me like I'm crazy, like I got something growing out of my forehead. And I'm like, okay, I need to talk to some dudes that know some things. But so that kind of drove it. And then I'm like, started looking around for classes, and then Front Sight pops up, and it was, it was in Nevada. So it was like a couple hours from me. So I'm like, all right, bet we jump into this class, go do the thing. And I'm just like, what in the world? And it wasn't even it was more so the class on criminal and civil liability, which, James's lecture talks a lot about that, but they did a very good job of that too, to the point that I was sitting in that class like, am I seriously, is it worth it?
Oh yeah.
To carry this thing. And it obviously it was worth it. I made the right decision. But at that point, it's like, what in the world, man? This is a lot of stuff. And so that just, kind of pressed me going. And then did I take a couple other classes, I think, before I got here to Tactical Response, with some other, in Colorado. There was a smaller class that I took there. And then here, and I was telling Molly the story of Tactical Response and how I came to Tactical Response. And to me, it's hilarious. So, and what happened, and I'm describing the building when I show up,
Mhm.
and those that have been here know, and if you haven't, you come and figure it out.
Right.
But so, when I came, and my first class was, I think February, March of 16.
Uh-huh.
And I was out here to see Molly, for my weekend or
Mhm.
whatever with her, and I had a couple days I couldn't see her, so I'm like, what am I going to do? And I'm like, oh, I know, let me go train. And so get on the interwebs there, and I'm like, all right, this tactical response place, dates line up, because there's other schools running around, but I'm like, all right, dates line up, boom, all right, purchase.
Yeah.
And so, but then I show up, and like I do, I'm typically early for things.
Mm-hmm.
And that point I was early enough that I was the only car in the parking lot, and there was no fight in the window.
Yeah.
So that wasn't there. I don't know if the tactical response logo was
Nope.
on there or not. And so I'm like, I straight up just got scammed. I was like, you got to be kidding me right now. And so I'm just sitting there, and I'm like processing it. And then obviously it worked out.
Mhm.
I did the 2 days, and then have been coming back ever since.
Yeah.
So, and then to the point, so that was kind of the lead into it. And then we moved to Tennessee,
Mm-hmm.
and, kind of had the idea to, for YouTube, for the channel, to go to schools, do the training. One, because I enjoy the training, just
Right.
the whole process of it, and then meeting the like-minded people, and having that, having conversations with people, and just different things for the toolbox. Like, okay, if because there are things, at each school you can pick up and incorporate into
before
your
you
own
jump
deal.
into that, I got 2 questions.
Okay.
Or one question, one suggestion.
All right.
The first question is, because it's all I've been thinking of, when you did your concealed carry, did you use the Beretta?
No, I have never owned a Beretta.
All right. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I've come to love it. No,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
horrible.
No, but before you jump into the YouTube stuff,
Mhm.
let them know what you're talking about. Tell them the channel, like what.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
So part of it is Red 4 Reviews.
Mhm.
The number is spelled out, so Red and then 4 spelled out, and Reviews on the YouTube. And so the concept behind it, and what I initially started out doing,
Mhm.
and there's still some in it, but go to the school and take the class, and then one for my own to pick stuff up, but to kind of lay out the process, especially for beginners, guys that haven't done a lot of training, to like help them walk the walk,
Right.
and to be prepared for it, and things to do to maximize your dollars and your time.
Mhm.
Because the dollars, whatever, you go work more, you can get those back. The time, not so
Nope.
much. So that was kind of the thought behind it. Like, hey, I'll go to these classes, I'll do the videos, and hopefully help people out to maximize that, and make it a little less intimidating, because I mean it is, until you hit that moment and do something like, for me, that moment of the concealed carry class. I'm
Right.
like, what the heck? But so that's what I did. It was started doing that, and then things kind of changed. So yeah, that's Red 4 Reviews, and that's and now it's a combination. I do the product reviews,
Mhm.
some of those, and then in addition to the training videos. I think this year I've only took 2 classes this year.
You've been busy.
Yes, I have been busy. And so, and kind of a common theme through several of the different schools,
Mhm.
predominantly so here, that it's number 1 on the list is mindset.
Right.
And so, and have used that throughout. So that transitioned into to running for Congress.
Yeah.
It was called to it, and so I said, okay, let's go. It's hard to say no to that calling. And so then I put to use some of the things that I've learned, especially with the mindset. And I did a couple podcasts, one at Ghost Ring Tactical, which is a
Right.
school I had gone to out there in New Mexico, and then also John Willis at SOE. He had me on, but at Ghost Ring, you get to a point in the conversation, and with the mindset
Mhm.
of talking to people that, I don't vote because for insert whatever ridiculous excuse,
Right.
My vote doesn't count. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter anyway. They're going to do what they want anyway. And so, but in that podcast, one of the guys was heavily involved. and like, hey, I've been doing. And I was like, it's mindset, dude. You stay in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
That what are you gonna do if you find yourself in that situation? You've had to skin your smoke wagon and go to work,
Right.
and you took the hit. Are you gonna stay in the fight, or are you balling up on the ground? So that's the kind of a lot of this stuff with anything in life really is that mindset.
Oh
And
yeah.
like I'm gonna push through and do the thing and do the work. So that's kind of, I guess, the short version.
The
along
short
way.
version of it. Yeah. No.
So yeah, that was kind of brought me to Red 4 Reviews, and then the congressional run was actually so the process of that and how that went was Memorial Day of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And my VFW post in McMinnville was responsible for putting on our Memorial Day program.
Right.
And so they asked me to be the guest speaker, and I was honored to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave that speech. And the way these things play out is with the VFW, you can go on there and they're like, hey, here's the speech for this thing. And this thing happened to be Memorial Day. And so the choice before me is like, okay, I can straight memorize this canned speech and just go give that thing, or come up with my own.
Right.
And so that's what I did.
Of course.
So I came up with my own, and in that speech kind of laid out the state of the country that is where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And as we're memorializing and remembering those that gave the last full measure in defense of this nation, our Constitution, and the values and the way of life, how we can reclaim that. And so 4 different areas I talked about in there. One, the president, who still Trader Joe is still there. Maybe we don't know. And then the Congress, their responsibility in this mess, the press, their responsibility, and then we the people. Because if you want to put responsibility on anybody, it's we the people.
Right.
And it's because of that mindset that our vote doesn't count, our voice doesn't matter. It absolutely does. And I saw that as I ran for Congress. So that was the start of it. At the end of that speech, I think it was my state representative asked me if I'd ever thought of running for office. And my answer was no.
Right.
Other than like as a kid, I'm going to be president. I'm going to, so
free pizza for everybody.
That's right. That's my platform, free pizzas. So, outside of that, nothing, no serious consideration. And I'm like, no, man, that sounds like a horrible idea.
Right.
But it prompted it, the kind of put the seed there, like, okay. And then from there, and then coming up here, role playing for the fight.
Okay.
I believe it was there. Tim was talking about in that talking about if you're standing around and you're thinking somebody should do something, that somebody is probably you. I was like, you dirty sucker. So I was like, got me.
Yeah, right.
It's like, way to go, Tim.
Yeah.
Same team, but but so just kind of that stuff stacked on, and then the kind of through prayer and through research, and came to started looking at how I was being represented, because it's easy to sit around and complain.
Right.
And like, all right, I'm going to buy a whole bunch of guns. I'm going to buy a whole bunch of ammo, and I'm going to sit on the keyboard and post, a bunch of nonsense about the collapse. My saying through it for a long time was about being in the Army and deploying is I would much rather go somewhere else and fight the enemy. Because I know people here. There's people here I know, I love, I care about, and I would much rather do this thing somewhere else.
Right.
And if you look second, third order effects, and you look a couple layers deep into things, that's a horrible idea. You think about especially in today, like a civil war, that does not sound like a lot of fun.
No.
And so how do we do it now? We change the players that we're sending. We change the people that aren't doing the way it should be done. And these guys are completely out of control. And this week, Thomas Massey out of Kentucky was talking about this
Okay.
and talking about the omnibus that will get continued spending resolutions. And the Republicans right now are hanging their hat on this SAVE Act. It's about voter ID. About you got to prove your citizenship.
Right.
Which, okay, great. That's already in the Constitution. Pretty clearly says you must be a citizen to do the thing.
Right.
But now we got to codify it and tell you must prove you're a citizen, which, okay, I don't have a problem with that. But they're going to tie this to this spending bill. Like, here, we're holding the line, and probably out of the House. And I think they've already passed it out of the House. But through this whole process, it'll get kicked around. It will not get passed.
Right.
It absolutely will not be on there, and they will cave. Republicans will cave, and because here comes the fear. Oh, we're gonna have to shut the government down. We're gonna have to, and if you look into it, it's just not essential. The government's funded, man. They're not. I mean, do they quit taking the taxes out of your paycheck if that's what, you know? Do you quit paying sales tax at the grocery? No.
Yeah, exactly.
The government is not shutting down, and if we don't understand that, and people don't, then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go back. I'm not gonna get elected, and well, you know what? If you do the right thing, you're fine.
Yeah.
But that's what they do. It's a game, and so you know that game has to change.
Yeah.
And so that, you know, like I said, so that stacked on me in October of last year. Actually, here at Tactical Response, you allowed me to come on the live stream and do that first announcement of it, and. Yeah, it's been some ups, some downs, and some lessons learned, and that are being applied going forward. I have already filed the paperwork, and so that's the learning the process. You know, what's the saying? Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Right.
Well, you know, if you want to know how to play the game, you learn the rules, and so that's what I started doing, and I started looking into it, you know, before I came on and said, hey, I'm going to do this.
Right.
To make sure you can do the thing, because, you know, just like, all right, we can all say, I'm gonna run for president, whatever, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, good luck, guys. But to be able to know that you can, you know, give the thing a go. So I started looking into the process, and the process is actually on its surface, it's a little, it seems kind of simple, and I'll talk a little bit as I go through it, but so. To run in, and it varies from state to state.
Okay.
So here in Tennessee, and I ran as a Republican. I ran in the Republican primary. So I think the Democrats do it a little bit different, but it is governed by state law.
Okay.
So, but within the Republican Party, so I'm not going to say that it's the same for the Democrats. I will say this is what it was for me in the Republican Party.
There you go.
So the first thing is you, and there's time frames. So it was February to April 11th was the cutoff date. I picked up my petition in February, and I had till the 11th of April to get, the 4th of April to get 25 signatures, registered voters in that district, verified.
Right.
So the form, for some weird reason, has 49 spaces for signatures. It's 3 pages. And I'm like, that's weird. Why not just one at 50, whatever. I don't know. It's government, right?
Yeah.
So you pull this petition, and you can announce it anytime, and you can declare you're running for any race. So I could have very well just said, all right, I'm going to give it 4 years. I'm going to run in 28, which is an example. That's ridiculous, but you can do that. And so then you start fundraising for that particular race. So that gives you, all right, 4 years, I'm going to raise money to do this thing. I'm not. I'm doing 26.
Yeah.
Assuming that we survive November. Which I think that's a very real possibility. But so so you get your petition, you get those signatures, and you know, there's a Foghouse Firearms in McMinnville. A good friend of mine owns that, and so he let me set up, you know, hang out at the end of the counter, like, hey, are you from here? And, you know, like, all right, I'm running. Are you a registered voter? Are you? So you got to, you know, I'm doing my own pre-qualification because they have to be registered voters in that district. And then even at that, so out of those 49 signatures that I got, 34 of them were actually qualified. So I had my 25, you know, I had my number I needed to be verified. So that's that part of it. And then from there, that petition, and they do it. Oh my gosh, it's hilarious. So you take it. So this you get from the Federal Election Commission, this
Mhm.
petition. So you draw it from them. You have to certify these pages and the signatures. And the only requirement is it doesn't matter. I certified my own election petition. So you just put your name, you put I think it was the date on it, you put your title, candidate, and then you like sign date. I'm like, what? This is ridiculous. Why? I don't know. So anyway, that's the process. I didn't come up with it.
Classic government.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I didn't make the rules. I just got to play by them. And so, and even there, and I mean, they were super helpful at the election commission there, but even they didn't know because I'm probably the only one. I think they don't get a lot of people pulling petitions for the U.S. House of Representatives or any federal office in Warren County.
Mm-hmm.
So even there was some because I got out, I started reading the instructions, or here's my petition, thanks. I go and I start reading the thing, and I'm like, hey, who certifies it? And so I go back in there like, well, I don't know. Let's call somebody. Okay, perfect. So anyway, got that all hashed out and got my signatures, got it turned back in. And then it goes to, and I chose to hand deliver it to Nashville. So it goes to the Secretary of State. And then, so they're in Warren County. Once I got my signatures, I took it back to them and they did like a pre-verification. So I'm like, okay, awesome. And they went through, checked, like, boom, all right, marked up my petition. I'm like, okay, awesome. And then we made copies of it because I had to turn in a copy to the Secretary of State. I had to turn, I gave them 2 copies. One went somewhere else. And then I needed one to turn into the Republican Party. So, okay, I get that done. I hand deliver, and you can mail the stuff. I chose to hand deliver because that tends to get better results.
Right.
And plus you can put some faces to names, and that's just how I like to operate. So, I drop that stuff off. I go to the Republican Party. Boom. Here's the petition. They're like, okay, awesome. Honestly, they could care less. They're like, because so they got that, but then so here it's your bona fides. Are you bona fide to run as a Republican? And so what that means is your voting record. And so the party was like, because I started asking about that. I'm trying to verify, okay, am I bona fide? And it's like 3 of the last 4 elections you had to have voted Republican.
Okay. So they actually check that stuff.
Yes,
That's
they can
interesting.
check, and it's the primaries, I believe is what it is. So they look at that, and so I'm like, and they're at the headquarters, they're like, your competition will, they'll verify that. I'm like, nah, bro, how to?
All right, yeah.
So anyway, I kind of, I'm like, all right, let's follow, let's look at it. I can read, and I'm like, and I was, I'm tracking like, all right, I've met that. I voted in the last elections. I voted Republican because the next step is you have to be on that primary ballot. You have to pay for the House of Representatives $2,500 to the party.
Yeah.
You got to pay to play, my friend.
I remember you telling me about that. That is an investment.
So, but it does get you access to voter data. So you can't, you can start. That's where call lists come from. So if you didn't know,
right,
when you vote and you fill that stuff out, they got you. and you can get this without going through a party. You can go to the Federal Election Commission and buy a thumb drive that has the information. And you do signs saying you'll only use it in connection with the campaign and that. So there are some controls.
Right.
But so that's what that $2,500 gets. So I had the access to all the counties, which there are 15 counties in the 4th district. So I had access to voter data in all those 15 counties, and you can, query searches. So that's what that gets you. So, and then really kind of to even back up, kind of the first steps are, like I said, for me, making sure I was qualified to do it, and, started with the Constitution and then started looking at some of the other laws. But now we go to the Federal Election Commission, which was, created in the early 70s because of lobbyists.
Okay.
This was the reasoning. Like, hey, we need to control this. These lobbyists, they're putting too much money into candidates, buying candidates, whatever, yada yada. And here we are 50 years later. how did that work out for us? It didn't.
Not at
What
all.
it did was put blocks in place or hurdles in place for we the people to run for these offices.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, it takes time, money to do this, and now they've created, and $2,500 is not horrible.
No, right.
So and this is some stuff I listening. In Arkansas, it's $30,000.
Oh wow,
$30,000 you got to pay to the party. In Florida, it was $10,000. Now
Damn.
it was Wisconsin, I think, Wisconsin or Minnesota, one of those two. There's no fee, but you got to get like a bazillion signatures.
Mm,
So unless you have that ground game, that team,
right.
it's difficult to do. So Tennessee is actually pretty reasonable,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not super mad at that,
Mm-hmm.
just because I can see both sides of it. On one side, we should be informed voters, and we should be actively seeking these people out
Mm-hmm.
and knowing what they stand for. So I can see that. On the other hand, like, seriously, do we need 50 people in a U.S. House primary? Probably not. So a
Right.
little bit of effort, to separate the wheat from the chaff,
Right.
to weed out I want to weed out you non-hackers.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to show a level of commitment. So it's like I can see it both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I was like, okay, let's do the thing.
Yeah.
So I'm not super mad about
Mhm.
that particular thing, but it's part of the process. Know the rules,
Right.
and so you did that. So with the Federal Election Commission, that a little history on that, and then those are state laws. So like I said, so different. So you have to file. Oh my gosh, and here's government again, and to me, and maybe it's me and how I think,
Mm-hmm.
like in an order of sequence. But so you have to first file as a candidate
Mm-hmm.
and say, yes, I'm going to run for this position. You file with the Federal Election Commission, and it's the FEC Form 2.
Mm-hmm.
So you file your Form 2, and then right behind that, you have to file your Form 1,
Mm.
which now Form 1 is your campaign committee.
Okay.
And
That makes sense.
And yes, that's like I said, and I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me that thinks that's ridiculous. I'm like, why not 1 be the candidate, 2 be the committee, as things get whatever.
Yeah.
So, but that's the process.
Mhm.
And so, and you have to have the committee, and then you also have to name a treasurer on this
Mhm.
committee, and it can be you. It can be,
Mhm.
which for my committee right now, because of how and because of how my setup is, I'm my own treasurer, because I'm not dealing with millions of dollars like
Mhm.
some of these other politicians. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm buying
Right.
business cards and some radio advertising, and
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I haven't raised that much money yet. That's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, as I grow the campaign and do the thing, I will be looking for a treasurer. So, but it's a team effort, and
Uh-huh.
that's what is talked about too. Kind of in training, is bring your buddies to the what's
Yeah.
better than the man. How does it go about if what's better than one gun, two?
Mhm.
What's better than that your buddies, whatever.
Yeah. For sure.
So it's a team, and how it's been phrased here is a tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And so you put you put the team together and start growing the thing. So right now, I'm team building.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So and that's some of those lessons learned going ahead.
Right.
So okay, so that was the Federal Election Commission. So that you got to file that paperwork, and then the petition, and then pay the party,
Mhm.
and then you start doing the thing.
Yeah.
And so and going out and meeting people, and really it's been it's been very interesting to meet people,
Mhm.
and to get to know better the area that I live in, and just
Yeah.
and really too, to see like I thought, one, how little I knew, and still know about the entire process.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like that aha moment with a CCW class.
Right.
Like, holy smokes, there's more to this. And so, kind of digging into that, and the same thing, that mindset, like, well, it's somebody else's job to keep me safe. It's somebody else's job to do this. So it's been very interesting. And then,
Yeah.
and then, for other folks too, like how I had people talking to me about dog catcher stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, if we got the federal government dictating how dog catchers are run in a county, I'm like, we're in a bad. These guys are in our business enough already,
Right.
but we don't take that time.
Yeah.
You know, we send these people off, and you know, the guy I ran against and I'm running against again, because he will win the general election. It's just that's the Tennessee in general, and then Warren or the 4th congressional district is pretty red. It's Republican.
Right,
He's
right.
going to win. So, but we forget about these guys, and talking about some of his votes. I mean, people are shocked. Wait, what? They're like, no. You know, one of the things I talked about was the transgender, you know, care within the military. And outside of any type of belief, that has nothing to do with the defense of the nation. It'd be a detractor. And so anyway, you start telling people he voted yes for this. What? No, he didn't. I know him. I'm going to have to call it. Okay. I'm like, all you got to do is take a look, and he'll come back. And it's not just him. It's the politician game. And just like we were talking about with the Republicans in this SAVE Act, they'll do the same thing. They'll like, yay, look at us. We're doing great things. And I saw him do this with the National Defense Authorization Act. So that was the 23 version in December 23, voted yes, and talks about compromise. Like, well, you're not always going to get what you want.
Right.
And so you got to compromise. And I'm like, no, you don't. I'm like, we can negotiate. That's fine.
Right.
But there are non-negotiables. There are no compromise items. And, you know, having been a non-commissioned officer and that much time in the Army, I will tell you that is a horrible idea. Now these guys have to deal with this inside of that. Horrible. So, but anyway, you know, so he came back talking about, hey, look at the House. Look what we passed. We passed the new shiny National Defense Authorization Act. And guess what? We got rid of all the DEI. It's awesome. But we don't think of the rest of the story. Okay, is the final version passed like that?
Right.
And I'm going with no, it is not. So that's the game they play.
Yeah.
And nobody will follow up with it. All they heard was we passed it and got rid of the DEI. Those that heard it and that are paying attention. And you know, we don't follow through. And so that's we the people, you know, back around to those four items, we the people have got to pay attention.
Yeah.
And I get it. I mean, looking at this stuff in the state, it tears me up inside. And I mean, just like to the point of like rage. But I'm like, all right, how do we get here? And now how do we take it back? And so that's the process. And we give people an option. And so there were a total of 3 individuals in this primary cycle. So myself, Scott Desjardins, and another guy, Joshua James.
Okay.
The previous one, nobody. He was unopposed in the primary.
Right.
I'm like, how? No, quit. So I'm like, okay, let's. And I, you know, I've been blessed. I'm fortunate that I'm in a position where I can do this.
Right.
And so and apply these lessons moving forward. And so that's, you know, and like I said, that fundraising bit, because and mindset. So here's another take on mindset is, for me, I looked at this and knowing that so to put it in a little context, one of the sheriff's races in the district that I have, or that I live in, that sheriff, the guy that won it, that campaign spent $100,000 to win. I spent all said and done less than 20,000.
Oh wow!
And this is all information you can look up. You have to report all this stuff through the Federal Election Commission. You got to file quarterly reports. You got to file with the IRS. You got to file with the House Ethics Committee. So you know, all this stuff you can look up. But I spent less than 20,000, and I got 20% of the vote.
Oh wow, nice.
And that I was like, well, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
to me,
right.
I was like, I was just out, and all I was doing was going out and meeting people. I was going to the Republican, the GOP meetings in the counties. I was going to fairs, to the Strawberry Festival, to the RC Cola and Moon Pie Festival. I'm like, oh my gosh, there are like a bazillion festivals in Tennessee.
Nice.
I'm like I'm gonna be 350 pounds before this mess is over with. But anyway, I'm just out meeting people, you know, handing out cards, and an awesome, business, or you know, the handing out the cards, but my campaign manager doing the same thing, because that, you know, and so now that's the other bit is, you know, finding individuals in those counties do those things
Right.
because I can't be everywhere. But so the mindset with that, so that was my take on it. Like I was like, that's pretty significant.
Yes.
So I went to so our rep has a mobile office and reps that will like, all right, sit down, like, hey, and so they posted this to Facebook. For me, it popped up like the day but they posted on the Sunday of Labor Day weekend. Like, hey, you can come Wednesday, come to Grundy County and meet a rep from the congressional office. Like, are you kidding me, bro? Like, how you're expecting people to jump through hoops,
right?
And it shows. And I've been to a couple of these before, but I was the only one, and I stayed there about 30 minutes.
Right.
And then their address was wrong on it. Anyway,
oh my gosh, yeah, of course.
That was not intentional.
Right,
so
yeah.
I'm reasonably sure they did not give, they did not put a bad address on there.
No.
So I wouldn't go so far to say that, but it was wrong, regardless of intention or not. It was the address was wrong. But anyway, I figured it out. I go in there and I have met this lady before a couple of times, and mindset. She's just like, well, you saw how the vote turned out, right? And I'm like, yeah, man, I got 20%. And she's just like, I'm like, and overall, yeah, he got 74% of the voters that showed up for it. I'm like, okay, but put it into context.
Right.
He had to defend himself against stuff I was talking about.
Yeah.
I saw him at a Reagan Day dinner talking about that National Defense Authorization Act. Like, yeah, we got to get shiny new stuff. And so anyway, but that mindset difference and how they look at it, and these people that are inside, and she's been with him or part of the campaign and known him since he was elected in 2010.
Wow.
I'm like, it's time to cycle out, dude.
Yeah.
Like you are doing nothing for us. You're you're just like treading water. You playing the game, whatever. Come back and pop your head up on when something comes up. Hey, do a post here. And that's not even. I know it's not him.
Right.
And I'm like, maybe one day I'll get to a point where it's not me. No, I think it's important because you're asking to be hired.
Right.
To go represent your district or, wherever it's at. But you have to come back and talk to the boss.
Yeah.
Where else in anything are you going to be like, okay, yeah, thanks for hiring me. Now I'm just going to go do what I want. And you know what? Just I'll come in and tell you what you want to hear a couple times, and then I'm going to leave. And then, you want to see me? No, that's not happening. So, and like I said, and even with these guys, that mindset thing. And so she was the one that talked about, why they don't do the town halls. Cause that's been my question. I'm like, why are you not doing a town hall? Why do we not have access to our representative? And so it was the, Gifford, she was a representative in Arizona. They got shot.
Okay.
And so I guess since then they're like, hey, we don't recommend that you go do these outdoor these things. And so, I guess these jokers took it to heart. And that was, and I've talked about this as I'm not going to live in fear. That for me as the congressional representative, at least quarterly somewhere in that district and published, and not like this over a Sunday on Labor Day.
Right.
That's ridiculous. Right. You're not trying to afford people the opportunity to come see. And I mean, I get it. And other than like, hey, I'm going to, post away at Facebook. So I'm like, at least once a quarter, and videos, I'm like, all right, I'm already doing some YouTube, content creation, and that's Red 4 Reviews.
There you go.
For those of you that are interested. And Tom Davis TN4 for the congressional side. But I'm like, I how hard is it? Like, here I am doing and I'm doing it right now. I put one out today, a little bit about the debate last night. And then, this is, 9/11 as we've come to, this is 11 September. And yeah, it's like, holy smokes, 23 years and where we are from September 12th until now and like what's going on in this country and absolute an invasion going on at our borders. I mean, we're being overrun and we have a party that's been in control of it for 12 of the last 16 years that is facilitating it. And, and you've got the other side of the Republican Party that has controlled the House of Representatives and won't stop. They keep funding it.
Mhm.
They keep dang funding it. So it's something else. But back to that original, there is, try and be optimistic
Right.
that we still have some time maybe to take it back and to set it right.
Mm-hmm.
And that does come with the election of Donald Trump, but it also comes with those in the other branch, in the legislative branch, doing their jobs,
Right.
and getting rid of all this reckless spending that we should not be doing. All this money we're spending to Ukraine, and that, another example. So in April they had the Saturday sellout, as I call it, where they voted all that money to it's an emergency. We got to send all this money to Ukraine, and so they know how to provide political cover. So our guy comes back, yeah, I voted no. Like, okay, yay you.
Mm-hmm.
But in this version of the National Defense Authorization Act that passed the House, there's funding for Ukraine in it, and I don't think I've you know what I did. So as I've done this, I've heard, I think, one person say in the district. No, it wasn't even in the district. It was in Chattanooga, and it was at a Democrat rally thing, their bus tour that they did.
Mm-hmm.
I went to see.
Yeah.
And one lady there, yeah, I support Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And here's, okay, we can support them. Start a give, send, go campaign, and send them money that way. I don't care but our federal dollars, our tax dollars, should not be going there.
Mm.
There's a history of it leads us to war,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't need it. So,
Right.
Yeah. So man, that went weird.
Yeah. No,
that process
not
of
weird at
running, running for it, and I said it does, that mindset to come back, and especially to this audience, and as I come on to the live stream, and as I do it, and I understand people don't want to talk about this,
Right.
but some of the worst voters in our country are gun owners.
Right.
Like, if you own a gun and you're not voting, you're wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to fix it. You're
yeah,
wrong, and you need to
absolutely.
fix it.
Yeah.
And with that also, that responsibility of the ownership. If you own it and you're not training, you're wrong,
Mm-hmm.
because that trained and proficient is well regulated. That's the context. That's the
Mm-hmm.
that's the translation. And trained and proficient, doesn't mean I loaded it and put it under my pillow.
Exactly.
But we as gun owners have got to get fired up in this fight, because oh my gosh, it's good conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I've engaged in it myself about the feds kicking down your door, and like, all right, it's on. Okay, let's think that through a little bit.
Right.
I would add that to a scenario. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
let's see. We got and see how that works out. Like, no,
Right.
unless you're seriously set up, you've got your you have really dove in, and you like have got the your entry doors like barred, and
Right,
and
right.
you're gonna get got, unless it just so happens you got enough time to wake up, or you happen to be up and realize what's going on, and they they don't announce like they do,
Mm-hmm.
or and it doesn't end well either way.
No.
And I'm not telling anybody how to run their scenario,
Mm-hmm.
but just you think it through and process it. Like, okay, if I mount this rifle and I start blasting, where does it go? Who else is in the house with me?
Mm-hmm.
Who else is dependent on me for, and this goes through your mind,
Yeah.
and it should be thought out ahead of time. So, but those scenarios and fighting that fight like that, I'll just run off into the woods, and okay, how long? Okay, and if do it now, bro.
Right.
If
Yeah.
go live free in the woods, and
Yeah.
how long do you survive out there on your own?
Mm-hmm.
You can for a while, but at some point, we're social by nature,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes back to that team, that crew,
Yeah.
So, I said, okay, go ahead,
Mm-hmm.
but how long does it last?
Yeah.
But like I said, it's fun to talk about,
Mhm.
conversation, and like, yay,
Yeah.
I can start a fire with, but
Right.
with this rubber twine that, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
With a magnifying glass, I can I can build a shelter, out of rocks, and okay, that awesome skills to have,
Right.
but at the end of the day, how long?
How long?
How
And
long?
I
Yeah.
think you nailed it earlier when you were talking about it. A lot of people clamoring for things like this, or not clamoring for it, but talking about it, all that stuff.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if there's a way of fixing things where we come
Yeah.
out as a nation still
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
burnt to the ground, which
Yeah.
is what it would probably happen in this day and
Yeah.
age if we had a second civil war, right?
Yeah.
Like it is not going to go well for anybody.
No.
Like you're getting at, where does it go from there?
Yeah.
So I think that this whole talk that you've done, my biggest takeaway, and it has been since you started this political stuff, is people need to be more informed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It is so easy to just take for granted what you have, like the world operating around you, like
Yeah.
oh, the government just works because of the people in that building over there,
Yeah.
but you don't know who those people are, so you
Yeah.
don't know what those people are actually doing, and this and that, and it's so easy, I believe, as people to look at like the president and be like, this is their fault, what, Democrat or Republican,
Yeah.
right? But there's two other branches of the government that
Yes.
also have a say-so in how things play out here.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just knowing everything that's going on in there. Of course, most people get riled up for the presidential election, but
Yeah.
if you're not looking at your Congress and all that stuff, like,
Yeah. What are these guys
what are
doing?
you doing?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And like I said, and people don't want to hear we the people,
Mm-hmm.
that we are here because of us,
Right.
and because we decided to be uninformed
Mm-hmm.
and to not be engaged. And so that's, like I said, that's how you do it, is you call them, and even on both ends of it, if like, hey, you got this vote right, let them know, but like, hey, you got this one right.
Yeah.
Whatever, come up with a schedule for you to spend some time, look at the votes, and look into information that comes out, because it's where are you getting your news from?
Mm-hmm.
Because both sides of it can be biased.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone's like I listen to talk radio,
Mm-hmm.
and these guys are straight up, we're commentators.
Right.
And so this is, and you look into things and like, okay, so here's the story, what, where'd it come from? What's the deeper, what's, 2 or 3 paragraphs down,
Mm-hmm.
how do you, so you have to do more than just the headlines,
Right.
and be informed. Like I said, be engaged. So call these guys. And then another avenue of approach too, like for me, is as a veteran, and I'm with the VFW, and I'm
Mhm.
with the American Legion, and so this is a lever of control that they have on we the people and organizations, for these organizations and churches, is taxes.
Right.
It's like, we can't lose that tax exempt status,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's how they. What better way to control a group than through this mindset?
Right.
And so now what you get in these organizations is like, man, we don't do politics.
Mm.
You're a lobbyist organization, not churches, but the VFW and the American
Right.
Legion, these veterans organizations. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm looking at a room, especially with the VFW, of a bunch of dudes that are combat veterans.
Mm-hmm.
You deployed somewhere, and now the government is going to tell you you're going to allow them to like let this go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can't do politics. We can't do politics.
Right.
You're a lobbyist. You go to Congress and you hey, we would like to see these bills passed, yada yada. But so they are political organizations, and the confusion that they get into is is nonpartisan.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not gonna endorse a candidate.
Right.
You're not gonna tell dudes how to vote. But what you should be doing is sending letters to
Mhm.
your elected representatives and to candidates. Come talk to us. Here's when we meet. Come talk to us.
Right.
And if especially at the federal level, if you're saying I support veterans, then you should be talking to
Right.
veterans organizations, and not just when when we come tramping around the Capitol Hill
Right.
in March is when we're looking to go. And be like, yeah, all right, well, and then close the door, and you're gone for another year, 6 months, whatever the
Right.
cycle is, until the next Vets Day on the Hill.
Hmm.
So that's another way forward I saw. So I'll be I'm going to be going to all my VFWs, all
Mhm.
the VFWs in the district, in the 4th district, and all the American Legions, and because there's a part in there. I don't think it's secret. The secret order, the secret meeting of the VFW, but and most organizations will do it like a good of the order.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's as a member, I'm going to stand up and be like, here's what we need to be sending letters.
Mm-hmm.
Two-pronged approach. So we go to DC in mass, but then also in the district, these as veterans, these guys should be coming and talking to us.
Yeah.
Because we've got skin in the game, and not to to take anything away from anybody else that's in the process, but that's our skin in the game is especially as VFW, we deployed somewhere,
Right.
so you need to come talk to us.
Mm-hmm.
And any other organization, even like the churches should be doing this, sending these open letters. And again, and where the balance has to be struck is you have to allow everybody the same time. And so send the letters to all of them. You're a candidate, come talk. You're a rep, come talk. You're, and that's what it's about. Even send us a letter, do it. Cause especially you start going to Washington DC, I get that. But they took the entire month of August off, and my man, best I could figure out, he went to, I called the DC office. He went to Europe for like a week. Couldn't find time to do any type of town hall in the district, but he could spend our tax dollars and go to Europe for something, allegedly. I haven't, well, that's what the guy told me. I think he went to Europe. So, I don't want to, try and say it's fact when I have not verified that that's what it is. And some of that I understand, like, all right. But even then, the whole Nancy Pelosi thing going to Taiwan, they were announcing those trips. It's like, why are you not telling us where the heck you're going, dude?
Right.
So, yeah, but that's how, we the people have a responsibility in this. And to send people up there that are not playing. Yeah. It's like, no, it's not compromise. It's this, we have got to take this back or we fall as a republic. I mean, that you can't, this path we're on is not sustainable. In fact, I would argue we're off the rails, and it's going to be, it's going to be a struggle. Yeah. But at the end of it, it's worth it.
Yeah.
So,
of course. Yeah, absolutely. I think another thing, just not to keep hammering on it, but by being more informed, by doing what you're doing, this dude ran unopposed last time, right? So that means he got 100% of the votes. Right. And now this time. Yeah. Right? Yeah. What, you said 24 or 20?
He got.
You got 20%?
I got about 20% The other guy got, so he, mathing in my head is hard.
Either way, he got around 70-something percent to 80%.
So the winner got 74%.
There you go. So he went from an A plus, to a D, So we have to make these people understand that, like you don't get set for life just because you got elected once, but that's what it feels like for a lot of them. I'm sure, Yeah. I mean, when was the last like major upset? I'm sure there's been a few, but it doesn't happen very often.
No,
it feels
doesn't.
Like where there's like this. Oh, this dude's been in this seat for 10 plus years, and now he's not.
Yep.
But so with that being said, they get all this extended period of time where it doesn't feel like anyone's watching them. Yeah. If now all of a sudden, people are watching again, I better make sure I'm looking good for them at least. And
at the end of the day, if me doing this pushes this guy to voting correctly, like 2 or 3 votes down, mission accomplished.
Right.
Like, good. I don't have to go to DC and deal with the bureaucracy up there. Because that's another thing I heard a lot about doing this is term limits. We need to put term limits on, which, I mean, for the U.S. House, every 2 years, we can replace these people.
Right.
So we have an election cycle where we can replace them. But that's not even the problem. The problem is the deep state that you hear about. What that deep state is the bureaucracy behind it. I mean, you're talking dudes spend like 30 years, in DC in an administrative position, and even within the organizations that we have problems with, the ATF, the FBI, and even other ones, the FDA, USDA, they regulate. And so Congress writes horrible legislation. It goes to the executive branch, and they just start, all right, this sounds cool. This is what we think they meant. And so we get stuff like a pistol brace ban. We get, ridiculous stuff. So, but that's the term limits you need.
Mhm.
Like you can work for the federal government, fine, but it can only be 10 years or
Right.
whatever the number is. But it's not just you're gonna start at age 21 and go to age 65, and then no,
Yeah.
stop. And cut some of those, okay, we can have a pretty decent package while you're in,
Mm-hmm.
but this whole and that's what it's a job, you're looking to retire,
Mm-hmm.
but here you can have this, here's something you can invest in, but after that
Right.
the government, the taxpayers are done with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that for a lot of years in the Army, is as far as now, because that's, I mean, that's something I've invested in my time,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's part of my income.
Right.
And so now I'm tied to this government functioning
Mm-hmm.
and paying my retirement.
Right.
I'm like, man, this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
And so now it's, kind of the other thing with YouTube and like, all right, I need to get some stuff monetized.
Mm-hmm.
That I if the government says we're not going to pay you unless you get this shot,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I can flip them the bird and be
Mhm.
like, quit paying me then.
Right. Right.
So but that's but it's that mindset until you really understand that and can start doing things different. Except for me, that's one the YouTube channel, and I really have no desire just to go back to work.
Right.
I mean, I can if that's what it comes to. If the government says because I'm not going to take the shot,
Mm-hmm.
or I will not be forced into compliance
Mm-hmm.
through some nonsense about money, like whatever, I can go get a job,
Right.
or maybe if my acting skills are enough, I can make enough people feel sorry for me. I
There
don't
you
know.
go. There you go.
No, but I'm
Yeah.
responsible for me,
Of
and
course.
so recognize that, and I would anybody out there that the financial freedom, look at your investments, look at what you're doing, and there's a lot of different stuff out there,
Mm-hmm.
but grab onto something that is not you being dependent on the government, because I don't discuss this a lot, but that's like a serious, like, man, what do I do?
Yeah.
But and just thinking about it, it's like, all right, that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like just like, whatever, I'll get a job. Okay. If I have
Right.
to, figure out something, or, we'll quit making a house payment. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, probably not the preferred technique, whatever. But,
Well-
but get your stuff in order and yeah, because this government is ridiculous.
Mhm.
The federal government it's got to be, and neither side is interested in shrinking it.
Mm-mm.
None of them.
No.
It's ridiculous.
No.
So,
No. And there hasn't been anything from either party in a while. It feels like that.
Yeah.
Felt like they were taking anything. How does
Yeah.
it go? It's like, once you
Yeah.
give them some
Yeah.
power, they're not going to want to give it up, right?
yeah,
Of course.
absolutely
So
not.
the government has not gotten any smaller, no matter
No.
which either side
Yeah.
says. But speaking of the future, so like, what are your plans? You're still going to continue to run? Like,
Yes.
you got it going
Yes.
for the next coming up?
Yeah, and I think with it, so I applied lessons learned,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of the weaknesses of the campaign was fundraising,
Right.
and I recognize that, and so now we're doing some things to bring some people on board to help out with that, and really I'm looking more to do it as the the grassroots and then to engage communities. So like this community that I'm in,
Mhm.
tactical response, and then larger the gun community, the gun culture,
Mm-hmm.
and getting us activated, getting us engaged.
Right.
Because like I said, we're some of the worst voters.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're the worst voters, we're the worst contributors. Put some money into it, put some skin into, put some time into it,
Mm-hmm.
and invest in candidates. So that's part of it. So organizations like, that, the VFW, the American Legion, any veterans organization that'll hear me out, any other organization, churches that'll let me come talk,
Right.
just to introduce, just to get name recognition.
Mhm.
This is me, I'm running for Congress, and community centers, just any speaking engagements I can get. And then that other side too is public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a thing that I kind of stumbled onto in running for Congress, but that is a business.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Mhm.
and doing talks like this and really more on stage. And so really kind of in putting together that action plan,
Right.
like how do we do this, and talking to, conservative organizations that
Yeah.
are interested, prepper organizations, anybody to listen to me,
Mhm.
within the district, outside of the district. And as I do gun training, as I go anywhere, it's like, and I can't even tell you, to talk politics all the time is just, and to be engaged in it like that, it's rough
Draining,
and,
huh?
draining. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like how just the level of, like our individual responsibility is something that's been lost on
Mm.
us as a nation. It's like, and we see it here in the, in the fight.
Mhm.
What's a lot of times you'll see what before they even, skin their heater and go to work when they should, or it's like as fast as we can,
Mhm.
we get the phone out
Right.
to, and not on anybody going in there. I'm reasonably sure I did the same
Right.
nonsense what I went through,
Yep.
but to role play and see that, you're like, wow. Just because that's what's been ingrained in us. Who do you call when you're in, when there's an emergency? What do you do?
Exactly.
911. That everybody says that.
Yep.
No, how about I handle my business. I
Mhm.
take care of this situation, and then I call them to clean it up.
Mhm.
That they're the cleanup crew.
Mhm.
That's that's what they should be.
Mhm.
And not to disparage any cops, or I did that for a while too.
Mhm.
But that's what you are. You're the cleanup crew. Only occasionally do they prevent something.
Right.
Unless they're entrapping, if you're ATF and
Yep.
not, and I mean it happens.
Yes.
People are people. That's what
Yeah.
that's what happens. But the point being is handle your business. Call them to come clean them up.
Yep.
That's how it should work. Not well, I gotta get on the phone and like, man, you're done.
Mhm.
It's mindset.
Yeah. Oh, it always comes back to that, huh?
Yeah, for any of it, mindset. And like, and that's the, like I can do this. I can learn something new. We have this capacity built
Mhm.
into us. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, I guess the
interesting. Yeah.
the last thing that I have for you is I remember we were talking just the other day with Heather
Mhm.
about some resources that people have available because we were looking up for after, of course, after you started this, like how do we even find
Yeah.
our representative and this and that, so on and so forth. So go ahead and get it out there on the internet for the people watching the video.
Yeah. So, and this will vary from state to state,
Mm-hmm.
but here in Tennessee, it's the Secretary of State.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go on there and they have the voter information is on there as far as, locations where you can register to vote. That you can do online.
Mm-hmm.
They have an app, but go onto the, was it SOSTN or the
Okay.
Secretary of State, and they have they'll have candidate information on there too. But voting locations, you can find out where to go vote. They'll show you by the precinct. You can go to your local Federal Election Commission. Those I don't get me lying, but pretty much every county.
Mm-hmm.
If not, they'll be consolidated. So there's a Federal Election Commission very close to you.
Mm-hmm.
They have that information also. To find out about candidates, a resource is Ballotpedia.
Mm-hmm. That's the one.
Yeah, Ballotpedia. So, and that gives you, so as a candidate, you fill out stuff, answer questions, and do a questionnaire. But you can find them there. And individual candidates, you start, you do the, whatever your mode of search is, DuckDuckGo or
Mm-hmm.
however you do it, look up the names and if they're already in office, especially at the federal level. Now county, same thing. You can go to your local county office, your admin building, and figure out who your local representative is. But their own individual candidate websites.
Mm-hmm.
And Facebook, their social medias. I mean, it's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And look them up and see what they're doing and
Yeah.
how engaged they are. And then also, and I would encourage also at a local level, because we're impacted really. That's a big impact on us.
Yeah.
And as an example, in Warren County, there's a wheel tax, which is like $30. So every time I go and pay my money to rent this tag that's on the back of my truck, I pay a wheel tax. This wheel tax has been going for like 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it was used, they needed a new high school. So, okay, we need to raise money. And just like once they start getting it, man, it's part of the budget.
Yeah.
And now everybody's used to paying it. You just like, whatever, man. All right, I got to pay this thing. elect people that'll get rid of that stuff.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
or the ones that you have, get your neighbors together, start knocking on your own neighbor's door. But so you got to go find the information.
Mhm.
That's some of it here, and I'm sure each state will have, you know, part of their state will have, you know, like for us, it's Secretary of State
Mhm.
will have that information. You know, if the Republican or the Republicans have, WinRed is a big one to donate to an individual candidate.
Mhm.
Act Blue for the knuckleheads. But and even at that, you know, and part of was it Grossman, Colonel Grossman, and
Mhm.
On Killing. Part of how they tear us down, and how we deal with a lot of things is dehumanizing.
Mhm.
So that's what we do, you
Right.
know, and I mean, understand, we, you know, and we talk, and some of these people they've got some problems,
Yeah.
but you know, as we talk about this, like they're citizens just like
Mhm.
like we are, entitled to these ridiculous opinions, and it's on to us, how do we engage with them.
Mhm.
Anyway, so side note.
Yeah.
but that
No,
but
I like
but
it. I think that's something that
Yeah.
is honestly missing in a
Yeah.
lot of people nowadays. It's too easy for us. It is very divisive right now,
Yes.
and I feel like it is too easy for us to look at the other side as
Yeah.
unhuman, you know.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe, maybe I'm an optimist, but I do believe that people on both sides, they do believe that what they're doing is for the best.
Yeah.
And it's okay to have these disagreements and not agree on every single thing and so on and so forth. But man,
Yeah.
I think that more people could maybe need a refresher on what you just said.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that and we forget to ask the question, especially of our federal government,
mhm.
when they start doing things. And that first question should be, is this constitutional?
Mhm.
And not, are we trying to make it constitutional?
Right.
Like, well, because what I've seen, a lot of the legislation is written as, I think it's Article 1, Section 8. I could be getting that wrong. But the general welfare.
Mhm.
General welfare means everybody, not just this group.
Mhm.
That and so, you know, how does this benefit everybody?
Right.
And if the answer is we have to force it, then no, don't do
Mhm.
it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, but that's what we do. We dehumanize
Mhm.
each other to that extent, and it's hard not to get into that.
Mhm.
But you know, that's something we need to, you know, as we do the thing, to keep that into context, especially those guys that they're like, well, it's the Civil War's coming, and
Yeah.
you know, some of these guys are like, yeah, let's, you know, that I think it's cool, or you know,
Right.
they're gonna ride out the apocalypse, or you know, whatever, man.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
go to a third world country, man, and
Right.
check it out. I don't know. It's not a lot of fun.
Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's how, yeah. And part of it, and it comes back to mindset, decide you wanted
Mhm.
to get to know your candidate, and
Right.
start asking the questions, figure it out, just like, you know, just like you guys did. Ask
Mhm.
somebody that knows,
Yeah.
you know, and then get, you know, and then ask more and ask more and ask more, you know.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, some initial touch points for it to
Mhm.
find your representatives and who the heck they are.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and and you can dial it down, especially with Tennessee and the Secretary of State, to like individual. I think they have it listed down, but to like in your own county, what district you are in there.
Mhm.
So, and start attending meetings. You
Yeah.
know, and it's hard. I get it.
Mhm.
You know, running around trying to go to some of these meetings that are, you know, it's late, but man, we got to do it.
Mhm.
We you know, you'll rest on the other side of it, I guess.
Right.
I was always saying in the Army is, you know, I'll rest when I'm dead.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
So-
Time is tough to make more of, like we just talked about,
Yeah.
right? So it's
Yeah.
tough to make that time to do these things, but when it's important to you, you
Yeah.
got to make the time to do it,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know? And when you're
So-
sitting around thinking that, man, everything is going to shit
Yeah.
and you're not doing anything to fix it,
Yeah.
start making time to try to fix it.
And you know, and this just kind of popped in, but on the kind of on this side too is, man, you got to keep a sense of humor.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to laugh about this stuff,
Mhm.
Because otherwise, man, it'll
can get depressing, right?
Yeah, it'll tear you up. And it's like, oh my, yeah. So keep a sense of humor,
Mhm.
you know, through all of it. It's like,
Yeah.
we all end up the same at the end of it anyway. So,
Mhm. Absolutely.
but what are we gonna do with it now?
Right.
That's the question. So,
Right.
right on.
All right, guys. Hey, man. Thank
Yeah,
you, as
Joey,
always,
yeah,
for
absolutely.
hanging out with me.
Yeah.
He's going to be on the live stream this. Well, you guys won't know this because this
Yeah.
is coming out much later, but he'll be on the live stream tonight. So if you watch the live stream tonight, when you see this
This
video
one, you
later,
can go back and watch.
yeah,
that live
you'll be
stream.
like, oh my gosh, yeah,
And you can also go to Red 4 Reviews and see those.
yeah,
You can go to Tom Davis TN4, and this is on the YouTube,
mm-hmm,
and see me there. For the campaign side, it's all Tom Davis TN4 on the well Facebook is Tom Davis for Congress currently. It is going to change to Tom
Mhm.
Davis TN4 to make everything line up.
right,
But yeah, go check it out. Be involved, and if you feel like donating, $20 a month for until July of 26,
mhm,
I would appreciate it. And understand, let's get rid of the 1934 National Firearms Act, 1968 Gun Control Act,
mm-hmm,
and be responsible for ourselves.
yeah.
So
Speaking-
yeah, right on. Aaron, we're dragging this out.
Yeah,
man.
speaking of,
Sean's gonna have to edit some stuff around, man.
well, speaking of responsibility,
Oh yeah.
your responsibility to be ready for the fight never ends.